Have you ever walked into a room and felt an overwhelming urge to leave? Not because of who's in it, but because of the room itself. The walls feel too close, the ceiling too low, the space itself feels wrong. If you've ever felt trapped in a place that should feel safe, this isn't a character flaw. It's your hippocampus, the part of your brain that maps space, sending a false alarm. I'm your host, and this is Anatomy of Fear. In the next few minutes, we're going to explore why your brain has a dedicated navigation system that can sometimes turn against you. We'll look at the evolutionary origins of spatial fear, the neuroscience of why some spaces trigger panic, and most importantly, how to reclaim any space your brain has labeled as unsafe. Let's start with a story. Sarah is a 34-year-old architect. She designs open, airy spaces for a living, but she hasn't taken the subway in 3 years. Every time she steps into a train car, her chest tightens, her vision narrows, and she feels like the walls are closing in. Her therapist told her it's claustrophobia. Her friends told her to just breathe. But Sarah knew something they didn't. She feels the same way in empty parking lots. Wide open spaces trigger the same panic. So what's really going on? While you're listening, do this right now. Look at the farthest point in the room. Name 3 objects you see. Feel your feet on the floor. This is called spatial grounding. It tells your hippocampus, I know where I am, I can see the boundaries, I am safe. You just interrupted a fear response in its tracks. To understand why this works, we need to go inside your brain. Meet your hippocampus. It's a seahorse-shaped structure deep in your temporal lobe. For decades, neuroscientists thought its only job was memory. But we now know it does something even more fundamental. It creates a cognitive map of every space you enter. Your hippocampus has specialized cells called place cells. Each one fires when you're in a specific location. Together, they create a mental blueprint of your environment. When you walk into your kitchen, your hippocampus activates a specific pattern. When you walk into your bedroom, it activates a different one. This system evolved over 200 million years. Your mammalian ancestors needed to remember where food was, where predators hid, and most importantly, where safety was. A wrong turn could mean death. So the hippocampus became hypersensitive to spatial threats. Here's where it gets interesting. A 2025 study from University College London used virtual reality to map the brains of people with spatial anxiety. They found that their hippocampal place cells were overactive. They were firing as if every new space was potentially dangerous. While you think about that, let me ask you, what's your number? Small spaces, open spaces, crowds, or anywhere without a clear exit? Drop it in the comments. The hippocampus doesn't work alone. It's connected to your amygdala, the fear center, through a superhighway of neurons. When your hippocampus detects a space that matches a dangerous pattern, it sends an alert to your amygdala. Your amygdala then activates your body's threat response. This is why you can feel panic before you consciously register why. Your hippocampus recognizes the spatial pattern, elevator, no windows, small, and signals danger before your prefrontal cortex has time to think, wait, this is just an elevator, I use them every day. Now let's look at the evolutionary story. A 2025 study in Nature tracked the brain activity of modern humans compared to our ancestral environments. They found that our spatial fear system is calibrated for savannas and forests, not for cities and buildings. In a savanna, an open space meant vulnerability to predators. A closed space could mean a cave, which might be safe or might contain a predator. Your ancestors had to make split-second decisions about space. Is that cave a shelter or a trap? Is that open field safe to cross? Your hippocampus evolved to err on the side of caution. If a space was ambiguous, it defaulted to danger. Better to assume the cave has a bear than to assume it's safe and be wrong. This survival bias is still running in your brain today. But here's the problem. Modern spaces are full of ambiguity. An elevator is a small box that moves. A parking garage has no windows and strange acoustics. A crowded subway car presses you against strangers. To your hippocampus, these spaces look nothing like the safe environments it evolved to recognize. A 2026 study from Stanford used fMRI to compare brain activity in people with and without spatial anxiety. When shown images of enclosed spaces, the anxious group showed 40% more hippocampal activation. Their brains were literally working harder to process the space. But here's the hopeful part. The same study found that after 8 weeks of spatial exposure therapy, hippocampal activation normalized. The brain learned that elevators, parking garages, and subways were not, in fact, life-threatening. Neuroplasticity in action. Let's talk about a specific type of spatial fear, agoraphobia. It's often misunderstood as fear of open spaces, but it's actually fear of being in situations where escape might be difficult. Your hippocampus is constantly calculating exit routes. When it can't find a clear one, it signals danger. This is why people with agoraphobia feel anxious in supermarkets, theaters, or even standing in line. Not because of the space itself, but because the hippocampus can't map a quick escape. The same circuit that helped your ancestors find cave exits is now triggering in the grocery store checkout line. Now let's look at the neuroscience of treatment. The most effective approach is something called hippocampal reconsolidation. It's based on the fact that every time you recall a memory, it becomes temporarily malleable. You can update it with new information. Here's how it works. When you're in a safe environment, you visualize yourself in the feared space. As your hippocampus activates the dangerous space memory, you deliberately focus on the exits, the boundaries, the safety features. You're essentially editing the memory. A 2025 study from Columbia University had participants do this for 21 days. They would visualize their feared space, then immediately practice grounding techniques. After 3 weeks, their hippocampal response to those spaces decreased by 34%. Their amygdala activation dropped by 28%. But you don't need a visualization practice to start. You can do this in real time. The next time you're in a space that feels uncomfortable, do the spatial grounding exercise. Look at the farthest point, name objects, feel your feet, then deliberately scan for exits and safety features. Most people intuitively choose A. Avoidance feels like the safe choice, but the science is clear. Avoidance reinforces the fear circuit. Comment A or B. The answer is B. Every time you face a feared space with grounding techniques, you're teaching your hippocampus that the space is safe. You're laying down new neural pathways. You're updating the cognitive map. Let me tell you about James. James is a 45-year-old teacher who developed spatial anxiety after a panic attack in an elevator. Soon, he couldn't go into any enclosed space. He stopped taking the elevator at work, then stopped going to the basement, then stopped going to the movie theater with his kids. James tried everything. Breathing exercises made him hyperventilate. Positive affirmations felt hollow. He read that he should face his fears, but every time he tried, the panic was overwhelming. He felt like his brain was broken. Then, James learned about hippocampal reconsolidation. He started with visualization. For a week, he'd sit in his living room and visualize the elevator at work. He'd feel his anxiety rise, then do spatial grounding. Look at the farthest point, Name objects. Feel his feet. The second week, he stood outside the elevator with the doors open. He didn't go in, he just looked at the space. He named the objects: buttons, handrail, emergency phone. He mapped the exits in his mind. The third week, he stepped inside with a friend. The doors closed. His heart raced. But he did spatial grounding. He looked at the back wall. He named the objects. He felt his feet. The doors opened 30 seconds later. He had done it. Today, James takes the elevator every day. He still feels a flicker of anxiety, but it doesn't control him. He's even taken his students on a field trip that required an elevator. His hippocampus learned that elevators are safe, not by avoiding them, but by facing them with technique. This is what we mean by neuroplasticity. Your brain can change. The hippocampus that evolved to fear ambiguous spaces can learn that modern spaces are safe. It just needs the right kind of evidence. Let's look at the timeline of this change. In the first week of practice, you're building awareness. You're noticing which spaces trigger you and what the physical sensations feel like. This alone starts to shift things because you're no longer fused with the fear. In the second week, you start to intervene. You practice spatial grounding in low-stakes environments. You visualize feared spaces while safe. You begin to see that you can influence your state. In the third week, you start entering feared spaces with technique, not flooding yourself, but approaching gradually. Each successful exposure strengthens the new neural pathway and weakens the old one. Now, I want to address something important. Spatial anxiety often gets dismissed. People say, "It's just a room. It's just an elevator. Just calm down." This is not only unhelpful, it's neurologically illiterate. Your hippocampus doesn't respond to logic. It responds to experience. This is why I created the 21-day Spatial Challenge. Screenshot this and comment "Challenge accepted" to commit. In 3 weeks, you can change your brain's relationship to space. Let's look at what the research says about why this timeline works. A 2026 study from Max Planck Institute tracked hippocampal changes during exposure therapy. They found that after 3 weeks of consistent practice, new dendritic spines began forming in the hippocampus, physical changes in brain structure. These new connections represent updated spatial memories. The hippocampus literally grows new circuitry to encode the information that elevators are safe. It's not just psychological, it's structural. Your brain physically rewires itself. Now let's talk about a specific technique you can use right now. It's called boundary mapping. When you're in a space that feels uncomfortable, deliberately look at the boundaries. Where are the walls, the ceiling, the floor, the exits? Name them to yourself. This works because your hippocampus has specialized boundary cells that respond to the edges of spaces. When you consciously map boundaries, you're giving your hippocampus clear information about the space. You're resolving the ambiguity that triggers the fear response. Combine this with the grounding technique. Look at the farthest point, name 3 objects, feel your feet, map the boundaries. You've just given your hippocampus a complete spatial survey. You've told it, "I know where I am. I see the edges. I am safe." The ancient brain that evolved to fear ambiguous spaces doesn't have to control you. You can give it the information it needs. You can show it, through repeated experience, that modern spaces are safe. Before we close, I want to return to Sarah, the architect from the beginning. After working with these techniques, she did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She took the subway to work. Her hands were sweaty, her heart raced, but she did the work. She looked at the farthest point in the car. She named 3 objects: handrail, Advertisement, door. She mapped the exits. She felt her feet on the floor. And when she emerged from the station, she cried, not from fear, but from relief. She had reclaimed a part of her life. Tag 3 people in the comments: the person who avoids spaces, the person who doesn't get it, the person who thinks they're broken. Your tag could be the thing that starts their healing. Your hippocampus evolved to map physical space, but there's another part of your brain that maps something far more abstract: your existence. In our next episode, we explore the default mode network, the part of your brain that activates when you think about yourself, your past, and your future. We'll look at why this network can trap you in existential fear and how to find peace. That's coming up on Anatomy of Fear. Understanding the anatomy of spatial fear is the first step. Your hippocampus isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do, keeping you safe from ambiguous spaces. But now you know how to give it the information it needs. The spaces that trigger you aren't your enemy. They're opportunities to teach your brain. Every time you enter a feared space with technique, you're updating your cognitive map. You're showing your hippocampus that modern spaces are safe. This is the promise of neuroscience. Not that you'll never feel fear again, but that you'll understand why and you'll have the tools to respond. Your brain can learn, your hippocampus can update, and you can reclaim any space. The 200-million-year-old system that protected your ancestors can now work for you, not against you. The same circuits that once warned of predators can now help you navigate modern life with confidence. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work to understand your own brain. That curiosity, that willingness to learn, that's what this channel is about. I'm your host, and this has been Anatomy of Fear. See you in the next episode.